Tornado Shot is dead. Long live Tornado Shot of Cloudburst. Hey, I'm Cyclone, and Tornado Shot has finally gotten one nerf too much and has definitely fallen down. And there is already a replacement for it. I have been tinkering with around it in the past few days already. I have been informed about the interaction between Tornado Shot of Cloudburst and Fury Wolf, have tested around it. I was already convinced that is very viable, and now with the nerf to Tornado Shot, I think it's even more viable, it's even more interesting. I just wanted to compact the information that I had previously uploaded, previously found just in one video, showcase it, and then compare it to the nerfs and the adjustments that we need to do for the upcoming league. There will be a separate league starting guide, and that will include the same PoE as in here, but the PoE in here is not finished yet. It is still it's not proofread, it's not controlled, and it's still not optimized in some tiny aspect that I think might need a bit of adjustment, but it's mostly finished already, so for those that want to get to early practicing, feel free to take it already. Also, any feedback gladly welcomed. Alright, so Tornado Shot got nerfed. What exactly got nerfed? Well, there are two things. First of all, there's a nerf to Sniper's Mark. Sniper's Mark now caused cursed enemies to take 10% increased damage from projectile hits at gem level 1 unchanged, scaling up to 29% gem at gem level 20, previously 35%. Now this is a 6% reduced damage taken on enemies. That in itself isn't that big of a nerf, that is still okay. Projectiles which hit cursed enemies now split towards 2 additional targets at all gem levels, previously 2 at gem level 1, scaling up to 4 at gem level 20. For campaign, Sniper's Mark is still going to be really great, it's going to be really good, and we definitely still want it. For endgame though, I think Assassin's Mark will be the best pair with Lightning Arrow, assuming you have Returning Projectile and Pierce. And for Tornado Shot of Cloudburst, Sniper's Mark is still going to be good. And also there's the alternative with Warlord's Mark, as Nube has been tinkering a lot around with that. Also, by the way, if you are not interested in Tornado Shot of Cloudburst, you can just stick with Lightning Arrow. Or you can go with Elemental Hit, as Nube is tinkering around with that. At least I've seen him tinkering a lot around with it. But for Tornado Shot, well, the Sniper's Mark changes do affect it a bit. First of all, there's of course Focal Point, which had increased effectiveness. Now the damage, I did a quick math here. Instead of having 61.25% increased damage taken, they now have 50.75% increased damage taken. Now, if you just have a bit of increased damage taken, it acts like a separate more multiplier. The difference from 50 to 61, I don't think are that big. We can kind of take a look at it. Level 50 at 28% is at a level 14 gem. So if I look at this and compare it here, can we add the same gem again? Yes, we can. So if we have the same gem here, level 14, 28, so this would give us 27% hit DPS, and this gives us 22. So there's a 5% damage nerf on just the damage taken. But of course, there is also the second part. There's also the issue with the projectile. Now with 75% increased mark effect, that would have been 3 additional projectiles at level 20, so that is a split of 7 on hitting. Instead, it's now gonna be a split of 3. That's 4 projectiles gone, which for as a single target, wasn't per se a big issue, but it did help with the clear. Now, if we are utilizing shotgunning and returning projectile, it does matter for single target as well. So there's gonna be a slight nerf to my Tornado Shot of Cloudburst, which I will again show in a moment, but I think it's still gonna be fine. Now for Tornado Shot, this is a big nerf that makes us really not want to use Tornado Shot anymore. The attack speed multiplier of 80% of base instead of 100. Now I do need to admit, I don't know 80% of base means that only is affected by the bow it uses, or it affects all attack speed. I gladly take anybody in the comments that will explain this to me. I never noticed that it is attack speed multiplier of base. I always I always only read this part on the gems. So I knew there was a modification to the attack speed, but I don't know if off base means it only reduces the attack speed of the bow, and other sources are fine. But other sources, I guess, are calculated based on the bow. So again, I would gladly take any information somebody wants to give me on this, but we are gonna be basically 20% less attack damage as far as I understood it. And it has, on top of that, it has more mana cost. Now the puncture skill gem I think is just because of the less attack speed, another animation made more sense, but I don't actually know if that has another implication. It has more mana cost at level 1 and scaling up to 12 instead of 10 mana cost at level 20. So it has more mana cost. I already had mana issues. It's now even more, making us maybe require lifetime just to use it or have the mana cost reduced to near 0. So it just has mana issues, and now the mana issues are even worse. And then the last nerf it gotten, the biggest nerf, is the quality no longer gives us fire an additional secondary projectile. Now, it used to be a helmet enchantment, then they got moved to quality as they removed helmet enchantment, and now they completely just cutted it away, and we have to increase projectile speed again. This is the biggest nerf. Now, this affects both clear and single target. Let me explain. Tornado Shot, in on itself, has a shotgunning principle. If you see here, an enemy can be hit by one of the main projectiles, and then once they split, they can be hit by each secondary projectile of the same premise. So, by having 3 projectiles, it could technically split the side projectiles. If it gets hit by the main tornado shot projectile, the side ones could have arrow split that could hit the same enemy and then get hit by that as well. The calculation was something like main projectile plus 55% of projectile count. So if you had 5 projectiles, that would mean you had 1 hit and then you had another 2 hits from the splitting. If you had 7, then would have been another 3 or 4 hits from the splitting. Now, with the loss of the secondary projectile, means that less projectiles are gonna, less secondary projectiles of different tornado shot main projectiles are gonna be overlapping. So, hitting the same enemy, as you can see here with the secondary, maybe pointing on the screen doesn't really help. As you can see here with the secondaries, can't really point either. It's hard to pinpoint. They will less likely overlap, meaning we're gonna have less shotgunning, meaning we're gonna have less single target damage. Meaning that Tornado Shot for single target, the reason why it was so good, is gonna be less good. Now, that being said, Tornado Shot of Cloudburst has, in on itself, not really much to offer. If we use it, we fire 1 projectile up, and it fires a few projectiles outwards. Basically, a basic attack, with a decent effective damage added, and then an arrow nova on top of it. Now, the gem itself fires 9 projectiles at level 20, and then we fire 4 additional projectiles with the quality, meaning 13 projectiles. Again, in itself, it's not very special. If we add Fury Wolf, now any additional source of projectiles instead applies to amount of splits. This one gives already 2. On our tree, we get 2 with endless munition and 1 with multi-shot. Now notice that those say additional projectiles, and those are then added. So we now have 13 arrows and 5 splits. Now, base Tornado Shot, if we put that in again, is at 4 arrows, technically 5 if we have Master Fletcher. As to why I don't have it, I get to in a moment. 5 arrows with 4 splits, and now in the future 3 splits. Cloudburst, 13 arrows with 5 splits. That's already better. We have more main arrows and we have more splits. Now those splits aren't guaranteed splits, they need to hit something, meaning that for content with low density like just a generic map, it's not gonna feel as good. But for a content with a high density such as Legion, Breach or Expedition, now we're talking. We're gonna assume the arrows are gonna hit, they're gonna split, we're gonna get more hits, there's gonna be a lot of coverage on this. It feels really great on that as far as I've seen. Now, as to Master Fletcher. Master Fletcher has the issue that it says an additional arrow. Fury Wolf only modifies the number of projectiles instead applied to the number of targeted projectiles blitzed towards. For some reason, Master Fletcher does nothing if you have Fury Wolf. Now if we look here, this is 17 arrows. If I remove it, it's 16 arrows. So I add it, it's 17 arrows. So technically, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, this should be 6. But it only says splits towards 5. Now, if I have it in standard, don't have it in League. If you would use an Elder Influence bow that gives an additional projectile, that does work and gets your projectile to 6. If you would use from standard a totem that would give an additional projectile, tattoo that would give an additional projectile, that works. But sources of additional arrows, like the Scriver, do not work. They just aren't applied. They aren't applied to the main projectiles, but also not applied to the split. So it just does nothing. And I would assume that is a clear bug. I did make a bug post on the forum, but sadly there has been no response to it. So I don't know if we're gonna get a fix to that anytime soon, or if they're just gonna ignore this bug existing. Hopefully we're gonna get a fix, but I be honest, if we get a fix, this is gonna get even better. If they're gonna fix it as the main projectile, it means we have more coverage with the arrows. If it's gonna be another split projectile, it means we're gonna have more coverage. So in any way, as soon as they fix it, we're gonna have more arrows, more coverage, and it's gonna be amazing. And if they don't fix it, we save a few passive points, and we save suffixes on bow and quiver, meaning we can get other mods there, meaning we can get more damage, more projectile speed, or whatnot there. So, Tornado Shot of Cloudburst with Fury Wolf, very big coverage, despite that bug that exists. Now, if we add returning projectile, that means we have even more arrows. We could add damage, but in my experience, especially on Legion, with the returning projectile, the coverage does feel better, and the overall clear speed feels better. Now, we have one issue. I said the big point of Tornado Shot was its shotgunning. We don't have that with Tornado Shot of Cloudburst. We just have that amazing clear. So how do we solve the single target? For single target, the solution is Shrapnel Ballista. Shrapnel Ballista has native projectiles amount of 3. We get 3 totem at level 20. If we could get this to level 22, we would go to 4 totems. But we can grab very easily watchtowers and the mastery to have our totems here.
My mana is gone.
So now we do have our totems, and what is going to be happening is Shrapnel Ballistas has a native shotgunning. Enemies can be hit by multiple arrows. Now what we can use this for is, instead of using... Wait, let me remove some gems here. You see that they have a bit of spacing. That itself is not looking interesting yet. But if we add Arrow Nova and returning projectiles, what's going to be happening is it's going to use a payload, just like our Tornado Shot right now is. That payload is firing from the same position, 3 arrows out. So if there is an enemy in that position, all 3 arrows will hit that enemy. Now, this will cause 9 splits, because we have the 5 base splits, like our Tornado Shot of Cloudburst, and we have Arrow Nova giving 4 additional projectiles, so we have now a split of 9. Those 9 splits then go outward, just as the basic arrows, and as they go outward, they then are gonna be returning with returning projectiles. Where it is? There, returning projectiles, if we have enough projectile speed. Because they go that much outward and then coming back, we need enough projectile speed so they can reach the point of origin, which is some point a little bit above 4.0 for all projectiles to return. With 4.0 attack projectile speed on Shrapnel Ballista, we are getting to almost all returning. That information we gotten from John Groan in the Trial of the Ancestor League. He was thinking out with Shrapnel Ballista as a hardcore bosser. And so we are utilizing the concept of the Shrapnel Ballista with Arrow Nova and returning projectiles to have massive single target. Now this actually got buffed in the next league because the projectile speed tattoo is returning. So we have the potential to grab that instead and then have massive projectile speed, enough projectile speed, so we don't need the faster projectile support, so we can grab something else there. So the Shrapnel Ballista looks very promising for single target, but of course it does have a bit of a clunkiness to it, because we need to place it, we need to fire at it, and because of with the returning projectiles work, we need to place it on top of the boss. For the bosses, we place it, then we stand on top of the boss, we fire. So our Tornado Shot and the Ballistas works there. Or if the boss is too dangerous, we place them and we move a bit aside and then we fire. The returning projectiles are going to go to the totems, not to us. Either is going to be working. Now, this has basically covered our clear and single target, but we still need to cover the nerfs from the upcoming league. Sniper's Mark is still gonna be best, because additional splits, even if it's gonna be less splits, gonna be more projectiles, gonna be more damage. Assassin's Mark is gonna be 20% damage increase, Sniper's Mark with the 28 and without focal point is a 22 damage increase. And then the splits are gonna be better as well. Now for instead of focal point, we're gonna get Ricochet. Ricochet allows us two things. First of all, it allows us better clear, because now the projectiles of our Tornado Shot of Cloudburst, they first split, then they fork, and finally they chain. If there's enough things to hit, they will definitely hit them. But it also allows something else, and we can use Tornado. Now, what we can utilize Tornado for is during the initial duration can be hit by your projectiles up to 20 times. So, if we place our Ballista, we place a Tornado, we hit it, all these projectiles are going to hit the Tornado and chain to the boss. Meaning we have more damage. Now, there is the new Tornado, the alternative quality, the transfigured version. But sadly, that does not include that it can be hit during the initial duration. So we cannot use this one for even more hits. We are needing the old one for the 20 additional hits. But again, it's going to be additional hits, it's going to be additional damage. It's not that big of a boost, but it's gonna be enough boost to our damage to replace the lost damage of focal point. So this was just, again, a basic introduction into Tornado Shot of Cloudburst with Shrapnel Ballista, replacing a variation or replacing normal Tornado Shot, at least as far as in my opinion. Now, we do sacrifice the amulet spot. It has its downsides, but I think it is feeling really well. And I'm definitely looking forward to playing with this next league. I'm gonna be ending this video with a quick showcase. I think it feels really good. Some people don't like it, as far as my previous video have shown, but I honestly think it has a lot of potential, and the 210% effective added damage will make the build feel really good once we figured out what is the best way to get damage on it. I'm still looking at deck stacking, but I don't fully know if that is the best way to go, or if maybe something with a new league mechanic is gonna come up that is gonna be even better. We will have to see about that one. But I think the clear feels good enough, the coverage feels good enough. This one was a bit on the worst side of a Legion. I think I had a straggler somewhere. Sometimes, of course, we're gonna have Legions like that, but I think the top side has a lot more potential. With Tornado Shot, I pretty much always had to use like down to 10 seconds, down to 5 seconds, depending on the level of investment. With here, I did had several Legions that ended at 14 seconds remaining, meaning we did them in like 8 seconds when they were close to wall, or 10 seconds remaining mean we did them in 12 seconds when they were in the open. So this has a lot higher ceiling to have amazing Legion clear, especially once we add Awakened Fork, Awakened Arrow Nova, to just have even better clear. I think this is, if I'm not incorrect, this is one of the better Legions. Nope, I still had a straggler somewhere. Well, I guess not all showcases can be perfect. Don't really know where the last one is, so I'm just gonna prepare the damage. Place a Tornado. And this is what I meant, it's a bit clunkier in some cases, because we do need to place things on top of the boss. If the boss goes away, that is a slight issue for us. This is definitely a downside compared to normal Tornado Shot, where we can just place the totems and start shooting in the direction of the boss. The boss will die. Well, it's still a bow build, it's not invincible. I don't want to make any false advertisements or promises. The build will still die, it's still a bow build. It's not perfect, but I think it has a high potential. Let's get the general down and then do the final legion. And then end on the map boss. There we go. One more legion. There's also the option of just using artillery ballista or just using a barrage ballista. So barrage ballista support, but that has not that big of a damage effective damage. There we go, 10 seconds remaining. That's a 12-second legion. So there are alternative options if you don't like the Shrapnel ballista, but I think the high damage ceiling on this is gonna be very promising, and especially once we have tattoos, we can replace faster projectile support, or maybe with deck stacking we don't need any more damage because it's gonna feel amazing. I have to see for high investment, but I think I figured this build up enough for mid investment. Now as we get closer to the boss, I think that was all I wanted to say for this video. Hopefully this was informative. If you got feedback, I gladly take any feedback you have. The boss didn't even got to take his sword out and regain his health. I'm very convinced of this build, very excited about the upcoming league. If you got any feedback, any questions, as usual, talk to me or write to me, I guess. You can message me, contact me over Discord via DMs or the designated channel. You can message me or over the comment section. Or when I'm live streaming on Twitch, you can hop in and chat with me live. All that being said, have a wonderful day, and I'll be seeing you in my next video or live on Twitch. Bye bye.